easy to do.
So from the outside, now, I see just glimpses of competition trials.
Mm-hmm.
I would compare it to, you've got the creatures on the mainland, yeah? And they're just, your bog standard, like foxes and stuff and badgers. Then you've got the small island, the small offshore island, right? And then there's like a fox, but it has two tails. On the weird island, it's like it's evolved on its own, separate to everything else. Like, I feel like Street Trials has like this. I mean, it's got mass appeal, hasn't it? Like the stuff you guys riding obstacles that people can relate to, and then you've got people in lycra with really long stems, like hopping up waterfalls. It's way harder to picture yourself do it. And I'm not like casting shade on it. I think competition trials is rad, but
like it's a hard one because I think the level of what those guys do now, like I was watching it for the first time in ages, like the other day in Glasgow, it's insane what they do. And I think just because of the nature of it, it's almost unfortunate that the optimal bike to take them over those sections and stuff doesn't look like a normal bike. It's weird, but they're kind of in a difficult position because you can't ride. If you were to sort of try and like make, for example, there's a rider who's rides street trials as well as competition trials on an insane level. His name's Joachim. He's from Sweden. He just rode the comp on his street trials bike, and he's like insane, but he'll never be able to compete with those guys on that bike.
Right, talk me through. So what's his name? Jack
Carthy. So he won the world championship for like the 10th time on. There's probably even more. So sorry, Jack, if I got that wrong. But yeah, he's like.
So he's got rainbow stripes. His bike's sat there. Your bike's sat here. Talk me through the difference between those two bikes.
So I guess, well, for the start, he's gonna have no seat, which I think from an immediate sort of outsider standpoint immediately looks kind of odd. But again, seat just gets in the way. So if you put a seat on his bike, it's going to be more weight. It's getting in his way. It's going to be a disadvantage.
Okay, and the advantage of that would be just weight.
Well, I guess in addition to the seat, it's going to be way longer. Like, it's basically designed to be on the back wheel. Like, the new modern style of riding those sections is like stay on your back wheel as much as you can. You can like turn on like a postage stamp, ride along skinny things so easily, and just be on the back wheel. And I think that's why people start thinking it looks like more like a pogo stick or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, his bike looks crazy.
It's like super long. He's one of the taller guys as well, I think. So he actually kind of pioneered like the whole bars like way forward.
Yeah.
And like did it so well that everyone just kind of had to get on board with that if they wanted to.
So do you know what numbers we're talking for like a stem or for like the bar?
Honestly, I don't even know, but like I would have like a 110 mil stem, which is still pretty big.
Yeah.
But they'll have like, I don't know, like huge stem, bars way further forward. The front end's going to be super long, back end's super short, really high bottom bracket. So it's not even really got that like sort of bike shape. It's just like almost like a straight. You could almost have, and some of the bikes almost are just like a straight bar.
Yeah.
From like the axle like up to the steerer tube. But it's amazing for getting them through those sections. But I think they do suffer because it just doesn't look as kind of
like a bike
appealing, or it doesn't look as relatable.
What's the difference what's the reason for it being longer?
I guess just all about just being like super good on like comfortable on the back wheel. And they can pretty much like, you can almost, when you're on the back wheel of those bikes, you can pretty much like see the rear axle, which is obviously really beneficial to when you're like riding along something like really skinny. And like you're literally right over it. And then you've got all this leverage to do these, like, you see it, you go like, you literally got from there to like pretty much the top of this rim to front wheel, and they just.
Yeah. So it is leverage, yeah.
Yeah. So and it's insane what they do. And I don't mean to badmouth them at all, because what they do is so much more powerful than like what we do. It's
no, insane. I don't think you badmouth them at all. I think it's like, I think it's mega cool actually that there's these two kind of completely different things. My island analogy maybe is off, but I don't actually think it is. I don't think there's anything wrong with the animals I don't think there's anything wrong with the fox with two tails. Yeah. I didn't want to be mean about it. I think it's actually cool. Yeah. I think that they're just obviously evolving on their own for one purpose. Mm-hmm. Which I think is, but then equally they probably look at your bike and think, what the fuck's he doing? Yeah. Why is his cable so long?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I guess it's almost a different. Well, it is essentially a different sport, even if you might not even call it weighty a sport, but it's like two disciplines. We just share the name, I guess, and some sort of common background and overlapping skills, but it's so different.
So components wise, there's no swap. You would use different tires? You would use
pretty much
different size wheels? Same size wheels?
Yeah, so like, well, I personally ride 24. Like Ali Clarkson's on 26, which is what you'd find on a comp bike.
Okay.
But comp bike's actually 20 and 26. Which again, I think is a complicated. It's like, it's when it comes to sport, which is essentially entertainment, isn't it? I think anything complicated, you're potentially going to lose people.
Yeah.
And that's another example. It's like you get 20 and 26, and both are amazing. The riders that ride 20 are amazing. The riders that ride 26, but it's like, I was watching the competition the other day, and it's kind of a random thing to have like two elite men competitions, and one being on a 20 and one being on a 26, and you get two world champions. Yeah. It's like having downhill. Imagine having a downhill race, and it's like, okay, cool, like we're going to have elite men riding like full 29ers and then
mixers.
Yeah, but they're riding the same sections,
so
but
right,
but it'd be really hard to take either away because both of them have like so much history in like the sport.
Yeah.
And if they did take it away, people would be up in arms.
I always think people
would lose out.
Yeah, I always think with ideas, you've got to be able to like put them in a sentence. Yeah. You know, like almost like the lift pitch or whatever. Yeah. Whereas it's too complicated.
Yeah, people are like gone. Yeah. Like, and as soon as you don't understand it, it's so much harder to like get invested in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one. I guess there's no sort of easy answer. I suppose trials sits in that sort of weird place where like BMX is so obviously like urban, and it's like you call it like an urban action sport, where trials kind of, I think by the UCI it is labelled as urban, but it is, if you watch it, it's quite like performance, kind of Olympic, kind of like, I don't know. So I feel they have a little bit of a bit of confusion with like the actual identity of it, and then again that's just like another thing that just makes it a little bit more confusing and harder for people to get behind and get invested with.
So what got me when I was younger with trials was the same thing with climbing. So it was like problems, and it was like problem solving. You got to get from A to B, and like how you're going to do it. And I loved just failing, doing it again, failing, and then you work out a technique, or you know, I'm talking like I was low level as a kid.
Yeah.
But I loved. I had a scaffold board on the floor. It wasn't even like we're like riding along scaffold boards, getting onto another, turning around. Like each of those problems were so exciting, and I feel like it's like that. Yeah, it's the same with climbing. Like I loved climbing for the same reason. Like, what did you get into trials from that angle? Like where it was like a mini version of competition riding, or was it always more like performance based, or like tricks, or?
Did you enjoy this clip? If so, please like and subscribe. The full episode is available by hitting one of the links on the screen right now, or type the Ride Companion into your favourite podcast app. We've even put links in the show description for you. Cheers!